just had a very moving conversation with Thomas Morey. I've known Thomas for over a year. It's been amazing to witness his growth as a human being, but also his short-term rental business from 0 to 14 properties. However, today I learned things about Thomas that I did not know before. And you guys are going to want to stay tuned to hear how building this business not only created the opportunity to go full-time with entrepreneurship while in college and then not need that 9 to 5 after college, but also has created a life full of purpose. So with that, let's get to this week's episode.
And we are live with the Short-Term Rental Pros podcast. Today I'm here with Thomas, probably the youngest person I've had on the show to this point. Thomas just drove up from Baltimore, Maryland to join us today in our new New York City HQ. So Thomas, well, first of all, man, thank you so much for coming here and, 3-4 hour drive, and tell us about yourself. What brings you?
Yeah, so my name's Thomas. I'm 23. I'm a senior in college, and I joined Jeremy's mastermind program, let's think, a little over a year ago.
Probably like 13, 14 months or so.
Yeah, I think it was March 2023. So yeah, and I got interested in short-term rentals October 2022, and now I'm managing 14 properties with 5 clients.
And you're still in college.
And I am still a senior. Yes, I'm graduating in December.
Yeah. So Thomas, he's we were talking about earlier. So we've kind of had a day to this point. My bad. I know Thomas is about to have hip surgery in a couple weeks. So
second hip surgery.
My apologies. When I told him to come up, I kind of sprang on him. Hey, my friend's last home tennis match at Columbia University today. Would you come? And he's been a real trooper. But yeah,
it's all good. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part. Sitting down hurts and standing is exhausting. So as long as I go back and forth between the two, I'm good. Standing after the long drive was
We're
fun.
sitting down right now. If you guys are listening, we're in the production set. This, for those of you guys who watch a few weeks from now, hopefully is a lot nicer. We're trying to hire a head of production because, as Thomas knows, I have no freaking idea what I'm doing with this damn camera.
I don't either. So
walk us back. All right, so you got interested in October. You hit me up in March, but what interested you about short-term rentals? Why was it something you wanted to do?
Okay, so my roommate, who was from Arizona, he was talking about what's that one? The really famous place for Airbnbs out west.
There's so many, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Scottsdale. He was talking about Scottsdale, how a bunch of people were making 6 figures with Airbnbs in Scottsdale. And so I started doing some research, and one thing led to another. I learned about arbitrage, buying, co-hosting, all that kind of stuff. And then I got to the point where I spent 6 months researching on my own, and I realized that I don't know what I don't know. And that's when I reached out to you, and things took off from there.
And then I remember initially, so Thomas was intrigued by arbitrage from the get-go, and he would come to us with deals, these 6-bedroom houses with pools, and he would say, oh, these have potential to be home runs. There's not a lot of data, so they also have potential to be swings. And I'd go Thomas, man, you're 21 years old right now. Why don't we just do co-hosting? Why do we just do something where we don't take risk? As much as it'd be great for you to slap $35,000 on a business credit card. Walk me through that. At least that was my conversations, how I thought. But what, from your perspective, what was the framework of shift from initially thinking about doing arbitrage?
So March 2023, I started the LLC, and then April 2023, I got my first real lead, which was a duplex on Ocean City, New Jersey, and it was beach block. So it was pretty close to the ocean. All the numbers looked great. Everything from a numerical perspective, from a data-driven perspective, looked like it was going to be a home run. It was about $7,000 a month for each, which was $14,000 a month in rent. And I made that in 6 months working at Domino's as a delivery driver and as a park ranger. So that was my 2 jobs I was doing before I got interested in Airbnb.
Yeah, walk us through. So when you saw in Scottsdale people were making money, why did that intrigue you?
Okay,
Like,
so
what were you doing at the time?
So yeah, so I was working as a park ranger down near Baltimore, and I was also working as a Domino's delivery driver. I was working, sometimes 12-hour plus days, doing crazy hours, just taking a gap year off from college and sort of just hustling. And I ended up buying myself a decent new car, and I sort of looked back on that and went, it took me a year to get a car. How long is it going to take me to get a house? Like,
What were you getting paid hourly at Domino's?
our Domino's was mostly tips from delivery driving, but after the thing about delivery drivers is that people, they make decent per hour, like around 20, 25 an hour sometimes, but then you subtract mileage, gas, insurance on the car, wear and tear on the car, all that kind of stuff.
Into your car.
And it's my car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's when it becomes a lot less per hour. You're sort of exchanging the quality of your car for cash.
For pizza.
And yeah.
And salads.
And salad, yeah, and cookies too sometimes. But yeah, and then I started working as a park ranger because I changed my major 3 times in college. I went from mechanical engineering to political science to want to be a lawyer to then want to be a park ranger. And I got that park ranger job, and I loved it. And I quit Domino's. I was working full time as a park ranger. I was working overtime. I was putting extra time, doing a bunch of stuff. I was at Piney Run Park in Carroll County in Maryland. It's like the 9th or 10th biggest lake in Maryland. Saved a guy who was drowning.
Did anyone thank you for that?
Yeah, he did. A couple other people did.
No pay raise though.
No pay raise. Not at all. I saved an owl with a torn wing that crawled into a 30-foot long drainage tunnel. I came in on my off days, did a bunch of stuff, and then my boss changed 4 times and I got fired. Because the 4th boss cared about stuff that the first 3 didn't, and no one told me that. So I didn't know I needed to change what I was doing. And at that point, I kind of went, okay, screw you, watch this. I didn't want to work for anybody else other than myself at that kind of point. And I'd been through a lot of mental health stuff had been going on for a couple of years, especially ever since COVID hit, because I was a freshman in college when COVID hit. And then things went off the rails, things got back on track. And, I discovered, originally I was going to do co-hosting with a friend of mine who was telling me he had get a loan for a house. He ended up being a liar, a pathological liar. I stopped interacting with that guy. And then I just wanted to do arbitrage because I could do it myself with a small, like 5-figure loan kind of thing was the idea. After I reached out to probably about 150 houses through Zillow that would have been good arbitrage units, and I got maybe 10 tours and 0 deals after 6 months of trying. That was when I kind of went, okay, you've got a good point when it comes to also trying co-hosting. So I started offering both, and then I got 2 deals in 2 months for co-hosting. And I think that really came down to co-hosting makes a lot more sense for the homeowners. And what I mean by that is that arbitrage is increased risk and it's no increased profit for the homeowners. It's the same amount of money either way, unless you increase the risk of the rent. But then that's also significantly increased risk on my part as the one who's doing the arbitrage, because of if I can't pay the rent I didn't have a day job. I was a sophomore in college when I started the company. I would be in 5-6 figures worth of debt if the arbitrage deal failed. So the benefits to co-hosting was the obvious stuff. When you actually get into it, it's just from an outside perspective, I hadn't thought about it yet. And so co-hosting, you're talking to someone, hey, you're renting your house $50,000 a year. If we operate it as an Airbnb, I'll take my percentage of the revenue and you'll make $100,000 a year or something similar to that, numbers wise.
Yeah, when these were the specifics, some of it, because you, and I applaud you for this. Thomas did not just go after like cookie cutter properties to arbitrage or to manage. Like he was like, I want to go for some McMansions. I want to go for some baller properties. And the ones that he did locate, from an arbitrage perspective, there was potential there, and we looked at it. We looked at every data source there was, and then when he told us he lost his job, I'm like, all right, Thomas, maybe let's de-risk a little bit here and let's look at things from a different angle, which he did do, but he still kept looking at those same types of properties and conversing with those same landlords. And then, you found your first ones, which were very high short-term rental potential properties. So they could make a lot more as short-term rentals as they could if they were just going to rent to you on a 12-month lease.
Yeah. So the first property I found, it was a 5,000 square foot home, 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, in-ground pool, surrounded by a forest, and it's in between the state capital and one of the major airports in that state. And that combination, along with professional photography, actually being a professional co-host, knowing the strategies and proper revenue management, we hit $70,000 in bookings in 4 months in the peak season. And our worst month in the low season was 9,000 for revenue. So that house was doing really good. And it was a long setup because we converted it from an unfurnished long-term rental to a furnished short-term rental.
Yeah, and then walk us through. So like the things you do, and I was like the things I did personally, setting up, getting that first client, like I'd bend it over, and actually, well, not in the first one, but some of the really early ones, I would help set up the property. Like I would go to whatever Sam's Club, buy a bed frame, go to whatever mattress store, get the mattresses, put them in a minivan, drive them over, set it up overnight, sleep there on the ground or whatever. I didn't want to touch the bed because we had like guests coming the next day or something. So I'd go on the floor, and you kind of had a similar experience with your first one where you effectively set up the property, like 5,000 square foot property. You furnished the entire thing.
Literally the entire house, except the pool table was already there. Thank God, because that would have been tricky. But
you also, I like that you took advantage of, kind of the design partnerships that we have.
Yeah. So what I did was I reached out to Blake and Lauren and had Lauren, she's the in-house interior designer with the program, the mentorship. And the homeowner that I was working with, he paid Lauren to be the interior designer for the first floor and the second floor of the house. The basement pretty much designed itself around the pool table.
He got a sick deal. Like they're super good. Blake and Lauren are very good, and their pricing is very competitive with what the industry is.
Yeah, things went really good with that, and it was a good. I never would have been able to. I'm not an interior designer. I don't want to be an interior designer. I don't think I ever could be an interior designer. So it was good to help me.
You did help me put a rug under the table over there.
Oh no, setting things up. Oh, I got lots of experience with that, especially because when we did the setup, things got pushed back a couple of weeks due to shipping times, doing 0 to about 150 item Amazon order getting completely canceled due to a fraud.
The credit card
on the credit,
fraud.
Credit card fraud, canceled the whole thing. I had to.
Thomas was like, "Do I pay for it on my credit card?" I'm like, "Hell no."
Yeah,
I'm like, absolutely not. Thomas, do not do that. I was like, Thomas, you better not.
I don't have a $40,000 credit card limit.
Like, you better not pay a cent.
Yeah.
You get prepaid if you're gonna do anything on your card.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was I wrestled for 16 years. I wrestled for 2 years in college, and I developed bone spurs in both of my hips and tore both of them. And my hip surgery was scheduled for 3 days before all of the furniture arrived. And my options were to get the surgery or repair in my hips, or potentially get a full hip replacement in my 30s or 40s. So I needed the surgery, and I got the surgery done. And I worked with one of my friends from high school to help assist with everything while I was on narcotics and painkillers. And after about a week, I stopped taking the painkillers, got off on my crutches, and put together a team of about 12 other college students from that I paid with the homeowner's money to run around that house and unbox, assemble, and set up everything in the house in about a week and a half. And we had a pretty good system going where they would unbox everything in the garage, bring the thing in. Once they identified what it was, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop. I'd go, okay, that goes in this room. And then they'd go off, assemble it, come back, and just repeat with a bunch of people going around. And it was good. It worked a lot better than I was worried it was going to.
So you got it set up. You used an army of
Yeah,
$100 a day college kids.
pretty much, yeah.
Which, you had previously been I guess 12 times 17 is what? $200 a day
About.
domino. So
Yeah, because I would work an 8-hour shift at the park and then go straight to Domino's.
okay. So you found labor and you got this place set up and you got it launched, and you said what, $70,000 in bookings over the course of the first several months?
Yeah, it was 9,000 in February, 10,000 in March, 11 in April, and then 21 in May.
Okay.
And then and then from May through August was $70,000. So we hit a little over $100,000 in 7 months.
Okay, and then so going great with that first property, crushing it.
Yep.
How'd you scale from there?
Well, coincidentally, I had actually reached out to a homeowner about an arbitrage property several months ago. And when I reached out to her, she went, I don't want to arbitrage this specific house, but I have other properties. I'm interested in you being a co-host on my primary residence, which is a 14,000 square foot brand new construction with an in-ground pool and spa. That's waterfront on the Chesapeake Bay on 15 acres. And I said, yeah, I'd love to be a co-host for that.
Let me go run some analysis on this. Yeah, it looks like it's working out.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. No, I'd love to. You want me to jack the price up as high as possible? Let's see what happens. Sure. Yeah. You have other properties too. Let's talk about those later. Was pretty much how the conversation went. And I have gotten 4 requests to book that property in the last 2 weeks.
What's the price per night for that?
Between 2,500 and 4,000.
Probably raise it from there, honestly.
Well,
Yeah.
it gets tricky because the homeowner, she lives there full time.
Sure.
But the homeowner owns one construction company and her husband owns another construction company. So they are because I think one of them inherited the company. Then they met each other. The whole thing.
So are they building new properties they can go stay?
They built this house with their own companies, and my main point of contact is her personal assistant, and she was out of the country last week. So it's been kind of hard to nail them down
on if they're gonna accept.
Yeah, just to schedule everything. But it's been going good. Once I actually got everything up and running, sort of, which was, professional photography, drone pictures, actually help people understand the scope and scale of this home.
Communicate the
which
home
was
to them.
required from a drone about 500, 600, 700 feet above the house to actually show the Bay Bridge in the background and the water, and it's beautiful. But yeah, and I've also gotten her permission to host weddings and events. I've had permission for up to 100 people. I haven't needed to ask for anything more than that yet, but yeah. So it's been that one's obviously it's not very booked. It's not a very much lower occupancy rate.
Yeah, but when it does get booked,
we got a $16,000 booking and then $20,000 booking.
Got it. So that's $40,000 of bookings, or $40,000 of revenue for 2 bookings.
Yes.
Whereas, you could manage a house that's $50,000 a year and it's running 70% occupancy.
Yeah. And it was, I think it was 12 days and a little over $36,000 in revenue. So we're averaging about $3,000 a night.
Got it. Okay, so you have these 2 McMansions. From there, what happened?
Well, from there, I had proof of concept, and that made things very quicker. and it was significantly faster for progress than, because at this point I'd been working at this for 16 months, and I'd gotten 2 properties. And
Well, you've been working 16 months, but you've been
October
with us.
2022.
Okay. Yeah, that was when you started.
That was when I
looking.
started.
Okay.
I did a lot of research on my own.
Okay.
I did so much research on my own. I toured houses. I was doing a bunch of stuff.
Got it.
And then when I didn't have any progress, that was when I reached out to you.
Sure.
So October 2022 to February 2024, that's 16 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that was how I got that timeline there. Was those 16 months.
Sure. So you got the 2, and like when I tell people is like, frankly, this is what I tell everybody, and people ask me, what is the characteristics I see? At this point, I've worked with, a good bit of people. I have experience with that, and like, what are the commonalities I see of who becomes successful? And I say consistent action leads to overnight success. Like, if you stay at something, and like really in this game, it's about building relationships and having conversations with the right people. Like if you do those 2 things, obviously there's like specific ways to do them. You can talk about, the strategy of reaching out to people through all these different methods. But ultimately, like when I was out with Thomas today, I was like, we're at Columbia tennis match, like, let's talk to people. Like we talked to, one guy for a little bit. You got his number. Yeah. No idea anything about him and his background. He happens to have he lives on the Upper West Side, and, he's involved in that world. But like essentially you talk to people over time, and you tell them what you do, and you tell them, give them ideas of how you can help them. It's gonna lead to good things.
Yeah. So what happened next was someone requested to tour the first property that I had, and it was one of the like first 3 or 4 inquiries we'd ever gotten. And so I was like, sure, it's a half-hour drive from my apartment. Like, I'll make an exception.
Which I would never do at this point.
I know you would not. I actually thought about what you do in that situation, and I went, this was before we had any bookings. So I was like, all right, sure.
You got to do what it takes.
Forget it. Like, yeah, sure.
Things you do at the beginning, I met the first guest and handed them the keys to the first property ever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I get there, I start talking to the couple that was there, and they loved the house. They absolutely loved it. And I started talking to them, and they are also hosts. They had a property out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was like, awesome. So what's your property management system? What sort of variable pricing are you doing with Price Labs? What software are you using? And they looked at me and went, what? And I went, oh, okay. Do you want me to help? Like, I like you. You just booked my property. I would love to just sit down.
And you had met them in person.
Yeah, I met them in person at the property.
Meeting them in person is amazing.
Met them in person. And they live about 40 minutes from where I live, but the husband is retired from the Air Force, and he was bringing his entire family to the area, which is Annapolis, Maryland, because the ceremony is at the Naval Academy, and then there's another thing at DC. So that's why they needed an Airbnb that can sleep 24 people. So that's how I met them, and I started talking to them about their property. I offered, hey, I'll come down to your place. I'll help you optimize it. I'll help you sort out like, the settings, the pictures, all that sort of stuff. And they paid me a couple $100, and they went from 1 booking a month to 4 in 2 weeks. Pretty rapidly. They had a lot of progress. And then that's when they basically went, okay, my brother has 7 other Airbnbs in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because that's where they're from. And they offered to fly me out for spring break. So I said, sure. And I stayed in her Airbnb, in the couple's Airbnb in Albuquerque. And I took my girlfriend with me for the spring break.
They treated you to a spring break.
Yes, they paid for my ticket. I paid for my girlfriend's ticket, but they paid for my ticket. They paid for the Airbnb because it was their Airbnb. And then they gave me money for a rental car and some other.
Wow.
Yeah. Some other
So
stuff.
they gave you a fully expensed business trip.
Pretty much, yeah.
Not getting that at Domino's.
Nope.
You have to use your own car to deliver pizza.
Yeah, pretty much. But so I get there, and I spent the first 2 days just running around Albuquerque. We went up to the top of the mountains on a train ride. Highly recommended. It was amazing. I did some other stuff, and then I met the wife's brother, and I had a conversation with him and his sister, the wife. And what basically happened was, originally the plan was that I would go around to their different properties and help them sort out their operations and stuff.
Sure.
But I already stayed in one of their properties for a few nights. And at that point, I gave them my ideas. It wasn't a lot. They were already doing a really good job. The brother had already had 7 Airbnbs for like 4 or 5 years, and all had like a 4.8 stars or higher for all of his properties. He was doing really good operationally. And that's when I started talking about them looking at his computer, the data, and went, okay, you don't have an operations problem. You have a marketing problem, and you have a pricing problem, because some of their properties were underpriced, some were overpriced, and they were showing up on like the 10th page, which there's 18 listings per page. So they were 180 listings deep, and no one was booking. And that's when I went, yeah, sure, I'd love to help you optimize it. And they said, we'd actually like to hire you as a part-time co-host, like a partial management sort of co-host. And I said, I'd love to. So instead of full service, I have those 8 properties as partial management, which is just, it's still really important. It's basically doing search engine optimization or SEO for the Airbnb search engine, which is optimizing the listings, taking care of all the pictures, like the half their hot tub. They had a hot tub to every property, but the hot tub pictures were like 50 pictures deep on the listing. The hot tub was closed. It was off. It wasn't, no one knew there were hot tubs at these properties. So
the moments had not been communicated.
Exactly, yeah. And what was unique about them wasn't being communicated at all. And that's just one example. There's a lot of other stuff that I adjusted, obviously. But they, using Rank Breeze, I've been able to show them, hey,
The improvement.
you went from...
That's what I do like about Rank Breeze, because you can show them you went, it's like obviously you can say, oh, you got more bookings, but you can say, oh yeah, you went from page 8 on average to page 2 or page 1.
Yep. Yeah, I got the first one I started optimizing, the couple, theirs is already on the first and second page most of the time. The other ones are trending upward. So that's been going really good. And in the middle of that, I also, so the conversation changed from one-time optimization for a one-time fee to being a partial, revenue manager. And I got those 8 properties for those 2 clients. And then in the middle of that, I was still cold calling. I was still reaching out. And I had realized recently that if you reach out to $1 million investment property, it's likely that the homeowner has more than one. Otherwise, they just live in the house. And this has proven true for all of my clients. And so I reached out to a $1.4 million, 8-bedroom, 6-bathroom home on 15 acres in Northern Virginia. And it was funny though, because it was on Zillow for rent. I reached out and it said homeowner in one place, and it said property manager in another place, and there was like 3 different people's names on there, and I didn't know who I was going to talk to. And then this woman responded with someone else's phone number to reach out to, and I called him, and that is a different couple, husband and wife team, where the husband is running 3 companies and the wife is his financial
financial advisor.
Yeah, well, keeps track of all the finances, keeps track of bookkeeping and a bunch of other stuff. And that's when I started talking to that client. And from there, I got 4 more properties signed. So I signed 12 properties between 3 clients in 30 days. And that's when things really took off. And that was March to April 2023 or 2024. So yeah.
So it's been a wild few months here.
Yes, it has.
So how has, you're going into the fire, and I know you're talking to me today about, it's the revenue management, deal, not having, that not having to build like the physical infrastructure. But what's it been like? You're essentially like you're jumping off the cliff, so to speak, building the parachute while you're doing it. I would like to think that, we show how to build the parachute.
Yeah.
But so to speak, what's it been like building the logistics out of this, so quickly?
So it took me 2 months to set up the first property because it was unfurnished completely. We had to get it deep clean after the long-term tenants left. Then we had to get the repairs done and then order all the furniture, get the design, all those steps.
It
Takes a
process.
lot of time. And we weren't making any money for those 2 months at all. We probably could have gotten 20 grand in revenue in those 2 months. And it took me a week to set up the 8 properties that were partial management because they were all already operating as Airbnbs. And I was everything was remote from my computer. I was working double time to get it done. But that was, I want to say easy, but once I had the experience, I could map it out in my head. There weren't no surprises happening that week.
You could see it.
I knew exactly what I needed to do and I did it. And
It was like, all right, photographer come, take these photos, take off the hot tub cover, like get these shots. You're thinking, this is why I like to tell people, like, you want to think in terms of moments. Like there's a few things that really help folk like crush it nowadays. I'll start on the front end. Again, consistent action. If you're doing a property management business, talking to more people, showing them your expertise. B, revenue management, dynamic, not only dynamic pricing, price labs, but really, and this is why I say, like, we're not Airbnb 101. Like we look in, like, how do we look and see exactly how our market is performing, and then come up with a strategy, like a real, like, in human terms strategy on how to make the property succeed. And how do we track it over time and make sure it's doing that? Or if it's not, how do we adjust our strategy? So those are two. And then third, like, we got to think in, like, those first 5 photos. Like, if people say, oh, it's the first 5 photos, don't think of it as the photos. It's the moments that you are creating. When you're like, what are the things that you're going to convey to a potential guest booking that is just in a half second they're going to see, and they're going to make like an irrational purchasing decision.
Yeah,
essentially.
the emotions that are produced. And the other thing that I want to mention about your second point with the pricing strategy, it's separate for each individual property.
Yeah, it's not the same exact settings and the same strategy.
Yeah,
it's custom to that specific property.
And that's really important to know and to understand. And that's part of what made the first property so successful was, well, first it could sleep 24 people. Because
had some good things going.
So that helps. That helps a lot. In-ground pool helps a lot. But then having a drone shot taken with the forest surrounding the in-ground pool and all 3 floors of the house in view, and the pool's open. We waited until April to take the pictures with the pool cover off and the flowers blooming and all that. And then having the real nice shot of the basement pool table and then the kitchen, some other stuff for the top 5.
The moments.
Yeah, showing
obsessing
this
over
is
those 5.
luxury. And then the other thing is you have to think of it as a guest. So financially, we were averaging around $1,000 a night for this property. But it could sleep, let's say it sleeps 20 people at $1,000 a night. That's $50 per night per person. That's a motel pricing. That's a deal for the guests.
Bang for buck.
Yeah. And they get their own kitchen, 5,000 square feet, in-ground pool, ton of space, that kind of thing, 2-car garage, all that stuff. So it really is about, like, I think half the reason, not even half, a little bit of why I think I've been able to do a good job of this, like, other than being, extremely stubborn, knowing how to work very hard. We wrestled for 16 years, played football for 5, know how to just hear no 150 times and just keep cold calling, was I've been a guest. And I know guests. I know what I wanted as a guest. I would talk to, and the other thing is, you got to remember, I've been in college this whole time, and I've been taking a full schedule of 15 credits or more throughout this entire journey.
So anybody has, so I have a full-time job, I have, you can make time.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly was putting more time into the company than school for most of it. But that was when I saw the potential.
So speaking of that, so you did this while you were in school. When do you graduate, and what's the objective before then? Is it, oh, I'm graduating, this is my side hustle, and I'm going to do something else full time and, you know, take the cash flow here and, you know, go on some trips? Like what's the objective?
So I'm on track to graduate December of 2024. So that's, you know, end of the year. And it's not an unrealistic goal for me to have hit 10,000 a month in cash flow in my pocket. I'm not talking revenue.
Which will be years earlier than I did, just, you know, in comparison.
Well, I would not have gotten here without your help.
I'm saying
it's not as fast for sure. But yeah, I
wish I had me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, seriously, that like people have asked me like in college, hey, how did you do this? And I didn't do it by myself. There's no way I could have pulled this off by myself. For example, the mansion that I got booked, Blake told me to put feelers out in the market to see if anyone was even interested in a property like that for that price point. And I found 2 groups that were interested to rent it for around $3,000-4,000 a night. And that was before I got the property signed.
And then you were able to show
And then I went back to the homeowner and I changed the conversation from, I can hypothetically help you make money.
I have people who already want to book it.
Do you want 5 figures or not? It's a very different conversation.
This money is waiting to be sent to you.
Exactly. And they travel all the time. Like the house will be empty for 2-3 weeks at a time. So they were like, sure, let's do it.
Local Facebook groups.
Yeah. But yeah, so where was I? Yeah, I have a mentor. I've got, and it's more than a mentor, it's a community. We workshop problems as a group, and we share ideas. We share tips and tricks, and I've been able to find some things that I've been able to communicate to the group that people have run with, and vice versa. And it's been invaluable, really. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you. Thomas has been great in a multitude of ways, like he just said. I mean, for me, it's really cool working with others because I have ideas and like strategies. I've had a couple revenue management services. They've taught me certain things that then I've employed and like ran with on my own. Mm-hmm. And when I have like, I think I'm having success with something, like I think I'm onto something, I'll share it with the group. I'll say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the advantages, the benefits. I'm doing it for these reasons. And then tomorrow, Thomas is like, I got 4 bookings. Like I did X, Y, and Z, and like it worked. And for this house it worked. For this house, it's like 3 more data points. So I can say, oh, okay. Now we all have several more data points, and it's like collective knowledge.
And they're all from different markets across the country, sometimes in different countries, and that's huge. And I had a point. What was the point? Right. So I'm in college still. I'm going to graduate with a bachelor's degree, and I'm 23. I started in 2019. I'm going to graduate end of 2024. So it took me longer than it's supposed to.
Well, the whole COVID thing blew everything.
Yeah. But I want to do this full time. I want to do this full time. I fully intend to do this full time, and I think it would be a wasted opportunity if I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was something that was really cool thinking about, all right, you're in college, like you did like a pitch competition and people were like, damn, you actually have a business already that's like making money?
Yeah, and that was awesome. So one of the benefits about still being in college, I've reached out to the entrepreneurship department in my university, which I would have taken classes in if I'd known it existed before I started the company. But I entered a pitch competition, a business plan pitch competition, and I took 3rd place, won $1,000, and I also won a 6-month membership to the startup incubator that the university runs, and that's been invaluable already. Like I've only actually been there once, and the people there gave me a lot of advice about how service businesses, that like something like we're doing, any service business, Amazon, Airbnb, hosts, whatever, that when you're acquiring clients, there's going to be a funnel. And at a certain point, you're going to fill that funnel up with so many new clients that it's going to get clogged because you have to get through the bottleneck.
The fulfillment.
Which is actually setting them up, actually onboarding the clients. And the tricky part about that was it took me 2 months to onboard my first client. to go from getting them signed to actually producing revenue. And the three ways that, this is a very academically thought out process that,
Sounds like college.
yeah, it's, yeah, exactly. It's a very academic look into entrepreneurship. And I'll give an example of how Amazon did the same thing. You have to either, to get through the funnel, right? The bottleneck, there's three ways. You either increase the size of the funnel, which means hiring more people, but that's expensive. And it's not a long-term solution because the funnel is going to fill up again. Second option is you force things through the funnel at breakneck pace, and you work 80 hours a week. You try to increase your capacity. That's not a long-term strategy either because it's not sustainable, and because you're going to have a drop in quality for the service you're providing. Then the third option, the final option, the one that's actually a good long-term possibility, is you restructure how you do business to increase the speed that you can get a client through the funnel. How you do that is completely situational. The way Amazon did that, for example, was if you order let's say I order this Yeti water bottle from Amazon, and it takes 24 hours to get to my house. How do they do that? They ship it from, let's say, China to a warehouse, a half-hour drive from where a major city is, and then it only takes them 1 day to get it from that warehouse to where the customer is. Because instead of 30 days to get it shipped from wherever it was produced to where the consumer is, they take the process of shipping it, and then because Amazon's so massive, they can afford to do this, but they order it ahead of time.
Well, it was like when we were driving up to Columbia and we saw there was an Amazon fulfillment center on the East River Parkway.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that used to be like a pretty cool, like little restaurant spot.
Yeah.
But I guess Mr. Bezos paid the mayor, and now it's when I order another Yeti, it'll show up a lot faster than before. So school, tapping into the school's resources, and by the fact that you've legitimately built a business that's, doing tens of thousands of revenue, transaction volume a month, and then, hundreds of thousands
per month. Yes. Hundreds of thousands a year.
Hundreds of thousands a year.
A month, yes.
Just thousands and that, whatever. You're doing like volume. You have now you are seen as legitimate in their eyes, right? Because you are seen as legitimate in their eyes, they're going to allocate more resources to you because you are now a success story. Mm-hmm. And those resources they're allocating you, the $1,000 you won in your pitch competition, 6 months, the fact that, they engage with you and talk with you, not on like what do you want to do when you grow up? Yep. Like blah, blah, blah level. And like, your business, explain your business to us. Like, all right, let's think about growth.
Yep.
Like, how do we grow? That's cool. I mean, I guess it's cool that, that you have these pieces in your corner now, but they only would have been in your corner because you took action in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of examples of that is I can win up to another 2,000 in 6 months for that competition if I make the most progress out of anyone in the competition, which I think I've got a good.
No one's gonna do jack
shot.
Everyone else is gonna make a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah,
they'll throw the word AI in 3 times, and they'll think that that's amazing.
That's pretty much.
We got an investment in 6 months.
No, I took third out of like 40 people. It was pretty good. I think the main reason I didn't take higher was because they only had 2 categories. It was either social entrepreneurship or tech, and I was kind of like in the.
You're a winner. You're a winner in my eyes.
It doesn't actually matter. I'm extremely competitive.
Whatever. You won to me. You're good. Here, I'll give you a golden trophy later.
Thanks,
but the golden trophy you're gonna get is when you come out of college and everyone's like, "What job am I gonna get?" Like, "Oh, am I gonna get it?" Like, "Oh, I need to get a job." Blah blah blah. And you're coming out and cash is coming in.
Yep. Full steam ahead. I'm so excited to graduate and not have to actually worry about, like, I'm in the middle of my finals week. I would rather be cold calling.
Yeah, well, you're here. You're here, I guess. Well, I didn't know that.
I got time.
School.
I got time. It's worth it.
Okay, so let's just like compare to where you were 16 months ago, grinding, you got that car. $17 an hour. Like, I think one thing that you said that was really interesting earlier, compelling, was like, you physically had to go do all these things. Like, you had to be there.
Right.
Like, you had to use your own legs. And now, you're having like, you're having hip surgery now.
Second hip
surgery. But like, what's being able, I guess, the virtual aspect of things, so that you can do it remotely. Like, obviously the money, like, just compare the money and just kind of, put it out there how absurd the differences are, but also like the lifestyle component.
Certainly, yeah. So a couple of things. First thing is, as a park ranger, I was doing manual labor 3 days a week, and the other 2, I was managing a group of people that were overseeing boat rentals and opening, closing the park, taking care of people's safety. But then the other 3 days, I was just splitting wood, hauling, whatever, right? And I physically can't do that right now. I've been in constant pain for over a year with my hips, and I'm in constant pain right now. It's just, that's how my life is at the moment. It's not forever. The surgeries, the first surgeries really helped the right one, so I'm feeling pretty good that the surgery helped the left one too. But just the ability. Okay, so there's 3 things. There's scalability, there's money, and then there's the actual time commitment, right? When I was working as a park ranger, I had to drive. I was going to school Monday through Thursday. I would drive back home, and I would work 8 hours Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I would drive back to school, and I would go to school for 4 days. And I was just going 7 days a week nonstop. That was when that wasn't during my gap year, obviously. But I can just work whenever I feel like it with my phone and my computer. And I don't have to physically travel to do that for the most part. And of course, sometimes I come to New York City to hang out with you. But
does this work? I don't know.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. I really do enjoy what I'm doing now. Genuinely.
And it is work. It is. Yeah. Like, conversations you've had today could lead to good things.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I have no idea. It's exciting.
Yeah.
But the other 2 things, scalability. I was working it was probably like 60 hours a week, roughly. So 1.5 full-time jobs. That's capacity. Realistically, without burning out and getting sick and being miserable, that's as much as you can do. But with multiple properties, I can scale. And I have multiple different streams of revenue, different streams of profit. And it's just a completely different mindset versus working a 5 to 9. And I like it a lot more. What was the other one? Money, time, and scalability. Yeah, money. I'm making a lot more than I was.
In a lot less time.
With a lot less time and a lot less wear and tear on my body.
So you are scaling your own physical health.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas. So what advice would you give yourself, 16 months ago when you started down this wormhole? What would you tell yourself?
That's a really good question. So I probably would maybe drop out of college.
What advice would you give any college kid?
Okay, realistic. All right, look, the main. Okay, if I was a freshman or a senior in high school, that would be one thing. I'm a senior in college. I've already gotten to the point where I'm going to graduate soon. So, but I skipped 6 classes and got 93 on my midterm for one course. Like some majors are completely worth it, some are not. And some majors are only worth it if you get a master's or go to law school or get a doctorate.
Does an A on that test help you with anything?
Not at all. Now, here's what school has helped me with. That's important. I think that's important to highlight. Presentation skills. The ability to convey a very complex topic in 3 minutes I've repeatedly used that because multimillionaires do not have time to sit there for half an hour and hear you ramble. You've got 3 to 5 minutes, if you're lucky.
I will make you more money.
Yeah.
This is the way I will do that.
Yes. This is why you should trust me, and this is why I'm better than everybody else.
And then if we're going to get going, this is how we do it.
Yep. And
would love to work with you. Let me know where you stand.
So that's a legitimate, there's a reason you're only allowed X, Y, 10, 15 words per PowerPoint and only 5 slides or whatever in school. That's a legitimately valuable skill. On top of that, the ability to teach yourself is incredibly important. you're pretty much entirely self-taught. I mean, I was self-taught with assistance from, where to look kind of thing. But I mean, I actually do the legwork and everything. So being able to teach yourself, being able to convey that kind of stuff, those are really important to focus on. I would also tell myself from 16 months ago, don't worry about arbitrage. Just focus on co-hosting.
I think there's a lot of hype online on social media about arbitrage, and I have done it. So obviously I'm going to communicate how to do it and how to analyze deals and how to reach out. And, I do have an arbitrage portfolio, but everybody's, so like what I like to, what I kind of pride what we do on is like, first thing is like getting you to become a pro and like understand things at like the highest level possible. Then from there, there's going to be opportunities down the line, in your life where you're going to want to buy. Or is that something that's intriguing at some point? So you need to understand how that works. It's good for you to understand how arbitrage works.
Exactly. Okay, well, let me reiterate that. I meant me personally forget about arbitrage. I didn't mean forget about the concept.
Yeah.
I meant as a college student that doesn't have the funds to furnish a 5,000 square foot home, to put a down payment on a lease, put the
first month's rent,
security deposit on a separate lease from my own apartment, and then the financial risk involved with that as well. It just didn't make any sense for me. And if I had realized that 6 months sooner, I probably would have 20 or 30 co-hosting deals by now.
And I think just in hindsight, thinking back to you and your situation, you being more like honest with us allowed us to like be more honest with you.
Oh yeah.
And you were coachable.
Thank you.
I think that there were times where, me and Blake were like, all right, we need to tell Thomas this, but let's, do it in the right way. And then it was kind of a point where like, fuck it, let's just tell Thomas. I think Blake led the charge there. Let's just tell Thomas how it like straight up. And you took it and you absorbed it, and bang, a couple months later you were.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Blake like twice a week on video calls for like a month at one point, because I just wanted to make it work so bad.
Yeah, you were hungry.
And I was close. I had probably 4 deals that I could have signed. I said no to them because they were too financially risky, or the landlord said no to me. That happened a couple times as well, or whatever. And I got the point where I had funding. I could have gotten funding from several private, individuals to do the deals, and it just wasn't worth the financial risk. And it didn't make any sense for the homeowners, even if it did. So that's how I got the co-hosting.
Yeah, and then you did it. You haven't looked back since. Doesn't seem like you're going to look back moving forward. So is it safe to say that, December comes around, like you're excited? Like, are you excited, I guess is my question. Like, what are you excited about? Not even just with graduation, but just in general.
No, I don't care about graduation.
Like, are you excited? What are you excited about?
Okay, so as someone, I'm on antidepressants. I've been suicidal. I've been miserable, and I've hated my life for probably 2020 to 2022. And I was trying to narrow down why, because I've been very fortunate and privileged from a family perspective. I haven't had to worry about, like, I've always felt loved, if that makes sense. And so I was always a little confused as to why I was so miserable. And I think it comes down to everyone needs to feel safe, loved, and accepted on one hand, but everyone also needs to feel capable, useful, and powerful. And if you don't have both of those things, it's really hard to be happy. And I didn't feel like I had any of the second category at all. And getting to a point.
Call that purpose.
Yeah, a purpose. Exactly. Something that is not only meaningful, but also enjoyable, and I'm good at, and can make me money. That's what I've found.
Quadruple whammy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I am very grateful for that in a lot of ways. So yeah, I genuinely, I'm doing a lot better, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm obsessed in the best way, I think. I just want to keep going and see how far I can take this.
Well, I'm excited to see how far you're going to take it.
Thank you.
And I know along the ways there's going to be bottlenecks or Amazon fulfillment problems, but it's all part of the process.
Yep.
And you just need to be excited every day for the process, for learning. Yeah, obvious. It probably helps that there's not going to be very many situations that you hit that like I myself or someone hasn't, dealt with similarly before.
When you have a group of over 100 people, that tends to be the case.
Yeah. So, well, granted, there will be situations, there's shit happens out there. I will admit I deal with new shit all the time. But that being said, I'm excited for you. Definitely going to want to, see your journey continue heading into this next year and see where you're at, 12 months from now.
Sure.
And I'm excited, Thomas. So we got this office, and Thomas is the second mentee to actually third mentee to have physically been here. You're the first one on the podcast, but we've been talking about in our group, like, all right, we should do, more of a bigger get together. And, people, oh, this day works. Thomas was like, make a poll.
Yep.
Like he's a millennial or he's a Gen Z. He knows how to use all these apps. He was like, make a poll right now. He was like, make a poll, put the dates out there. So he's really been, really pushing, been a great contributor and really pushing to, help everyone.
The other thing that I would tell to myself 16 months ago, have more confidence. There's a lot of people out there that don't have the technical capabilities that someone around, our age or my age or younger than me has. And that is such an advantage that no one talks about. That's been half of, that's the competitive advantage that I bring to the table, is that I can understand this software and how to utilize it. And that's huge. So I just want to add that.
You're good. You are good at this. He is.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that's cool, and I've said this probably so many times on the podcast, but like this space is a young person space. This wasn't a thing 10 years ago. It's not like a nepotistic world. Like, sure. It's not like, oh, I got this job because, my dad played golf with so-and-so. Yeah. It's really like people have these assets. There are people out there who own a lot of houses, as Thomas has discovered. Like someone who owns a $2 million house here probably has some other properties in other places. They have these assets, and in college, they were not being told how to operate them. Like this is a new world. There is no college for this.
Well, I joined it.
Yeah, true. Exactly. So if you can be young and be the best. And that's cool to me. Like for me to be like, yeah, I'm legitimately like, the best at this.
Oh yeah.
And
the first property, it was first page, first rank for, probably almost every single data point I've ever seen. Like I would have just random people pull up incognito mode, search, and boom, first page, first listing, first on repeat for months. And once we got booked up for the whole summer, it went down a little bit, but that's what's expected. So yeah, you really can be a complete and total professional and have started from complete scratch.
Yeah, and Thomas, he's talking about booking, but we were talking earlier about direct booking. Started to build out a direct booking platform. I'm even having like a couple, he's helping me troubleshoot my direct booking platform. Actually, that's what we need to do next.
I was going to do it earlier. But,
yeah, he was driving, so we were safe. But awesome. Well, Thomas, man, this has been great. It's been honestly pleasure. Like see your growth, like as a human being.
Thank you.
I think thinking back to like when I first talked to you on a Zoom call, however many months ago, and seeing where you are today, you're a more confident. You've always been a capable human being, but now understanding and believing it yourself, and the proof being in the pudding, and seeing the results of your consistent action has been beautiful on my end. So I'm super excited for you. I guess where can folks, if they want to know Thomas, follow your journey, where?
Yeah, sure. So My website is ChesapeakeStaysLLC.com. You can reach out to my email or phone number through there. You can join the B&B Pro Mastermind. I'm in that group chat as well.
Fun group chat.
I'm pretty active there, that's for sure. But yeah, a couple other places you could comment on or something. And
All right, we'll see. Yeah, you can hit me up. I'll put you in a chat. Thomas loves to chat. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk your ear off as we all would be. Well, awesome, Thomas. So yeah, thank everybody for tuning in. Thomas, thank you again for driving up, and
of course,
everybody, stay tuned to the next episode of the Short Term Rental Pros podcast.